So today I decided with Scream 7 coming out this week that we are going to break down the code on the rules of Scream 7. We've survived the sequels, the requels, the trilogy, the forquel, and now Kevin Williamson is back. And he is back in the director's chair and the board is being reset. If Scream 6 was about the core four breaking the rules of the franchise, then Scream 7 is definitely going to be the original one coming back to reclaim his throne. We're talking about the return of the one and only Sidney Prescott. And in this world, that doesn't mean just a cameo. That means everything is going to get blood soaked. Before we get into the Motherhood Clause and the deep fake meta commentary, we have to get into the legacy anchor. In the announcement trailer, the focus wasn't on a new mask or a new city or anything like that. It was on the history of the franchise. So to me, this isn't just another sequel. It's a pivot of sorts. So today we aren't just going to be guessing who's under the mask. We're going to do a franchise forensic deep dive. And we're going to do that by going into the direct sequel Retcon, the Bloodline stakes, and why the return to Sidney's story changes the survival math for everybody involved in the movie. So to me, what makes Scream 7 feel a little bit different is that clean slate vibe that we're getting. After the Carpenter sisters storyline was cut a little bit short, the franchise seems to be leaning into the legacy horror, similar to that of Halloween 2018. It's that sleeker, more mature approach, and this time it's going to be in Woodsboro, and they're going to focus on the trauma that started it all. And that makes the threat this time personal. This isn't going to be a killer that's going to be obsessed with the Stab franchise fan fiction. This killer or killers is probably going to be obsessed with the original sin or the original murders. Usually with these legacy horror movies, the aesthetic is the whole full circle moment. So I would imagine that everything is going to come full circle in this story. So I don't believe we're going to have to worry about any more stories in New York or the subways or anything like that. All that is being traded in for Sidney's new life. And the horror in that is going to be that home invasion aesthetic that they're seen to be going for. It's not going to be just Ghostface in your house. It's going to be Ghostface in your family tree, more than likely. So the rules. Let's start with the Retcon homage. Keep an eye out for the cinematography in this one. Some of the rumors have been said that they're going to be exploring some of the original visuals. If you see that they framed Sidney's new home with that same wide, lonely lens from the first film, then the rule here is very, very clear. To end the story, you have to go back to the beginning. And then we have that daughter wild card. With Isabel May playing Sidney's daughter, we obviously are going to get some type of passing of the torch type moment. The catch to this rule is the sins of our parents are revisited with our children. And obviously we see in some of the trailer footage that whoever the killer is more than likely going to abduct Sidney's daughter in order to kind of play some cat and mouse game with Sidney. So whatever Sidney did, or whatever they revisit from the original film, because this is obviously going to go back to the 1996 in some type of way, because they're bringing Stu back, who is one of the original killers. And whether it's a flashback or something like that, whatever Sidney's original sin was, or whatever she did in the original movie, is going to affect things in this film. And they're going to have some type of effect on her daughter. And what is a Scream movie without the whole voice mechanic? In the 90s, the voice changer was a toy, and every other movie after that, it was a toy. But now in 2026, I believe it's going to be something a little bit different. This is where I think we're going to get some of the new technology, deep fake mimicry in here. Imagine this. Ghostface calling Sidney, but using a deep fake voice of Dewey or her father or anybody, maybe Stu. So the rule here would be trust nothing that you hear and only half of what you see. It's basically a gaslighting mechanic used to break the final girl's psyche. And I'm going to be tracking every tech leak in Scream 7, so if they confirm some type of AI's voice actor, I'll be the first to break it down, so go ahead and sub now. That way you can catch it when I do. That takes me to our false finale protocol. Is this the final chapter? Is this really going to be the last Scream movie ever made? Because why bring Sidney back now in what's being billed as the final movie? The answer to that is, in finales or final movies, that legacy shield that these characters hold, the Laurie Strodes, the Nancy Thompson, Randy Meeks, characters like that have held some type of legacy shield at some point in the films. But like I said, usually in these finales, the legacy shield is usually gone. But The twist here is Neve Campbell has been on record by saying that, if Scream 7 does well, she would love to come back for a Scream 8. So what does that really mean? So I believe the rule here is this isn't necessarily the end. They just have to kind of make us think it is. And that is one of the reasons why I think the stakes are going to be really, really high in this movie. They have to try to convince us that the original Woodsboro storyline is done. They have to truly draw a conclusion to the entire Woodsboro, all of that. Even if they continue on with Scream in the future, in this particular film, they have to end all of the Woodsboro stuff and start fresh. And they have to do that just so that the stakes feel genuine. So, which brings me to my purest theory. That the empty seat in this story is the literal or metaphorical return of the original accomplice. Meaning, if the killer is using 1990s tactics, things like no social media, no live streams, he's just using his phone and a blade, then it confirms that the killer that I'm about to give you guys could pay off for the franchise. If the movie ends in some fashion where Sidney's daughter takes the mask and defends herself, it kind of flips the script a little bit. Does the cycle truly end there if it does? Or did Sidney just create a new type of survivor? Because the real horror in this franchise and what they seem to be leaning to is, even if you kill the man in the mask, the legacy is probably going to always stay in the family. I believe this film has the potential to be a 5 out of 5 stars personally. This is the contained legacy play. It takes the meta commentary of the last 30 years and strips it all the way down to its bones. And the chemistry of seeing Neve Campbell and Sidney Prescott again is going to make this one of the most anticipated horror events of the year. It probably is one of the most anticipated horror films of this year. Thank goodness it is coming early. But next time your phone rings and you don't recognize the number, maybe just let it go to voicemail. Don't forget I am pushing for the 500 sub milestone for Spoilers and Unfiltered. Hit that button so we can keep doing these deep dives. Drop a comment, let me know if you guys think Sidney survives the final chapter or not. And let me know if you think it's time for maybe somebody else to take on the lead role in this franchise and give somebody else new the keys to the kingdom and go from there. But until next time, I will see you then. Thank you for coming. Bye.